The Campaign for Truth in Medicine is an organization of citizens worldwide dedicated to overthrowing a stranglehold on citizens' freedoms in the area of healthcare. As many of you know, across the world now we have the whole Codex Alimentarius effort, which is designed to globalize the availability of healthcare. And this is one of the most dangerous things because, number one, it takes citizens' choice away. Number two, modalities such as nutrition, supplementation, and a number of other alternative health persuasions are simply being persecuted and will not be available, or people will not be able to practice them. As time goes by, of course, we're seeing this whole sickness system bolted down around our ears. What particularly concerns me is the corruption of the food supply. And that's one of the things that we will be discussing this weekend, and I speak endlessly on my tours about. Now, the point is, citizens have got to stand together on this. If they don't, then unfortunately corporate statism wins, and that's going to be incredibly damaging for everybody's health. So I would invite everybody to have a look at the Campaign for Truth in Medicine website, which you will find at www.credence.org, up on the screen right now, and join and be part of the hundreds of thousands worldwide who are now banding together to get this ridiculous effort to take away freedoms abolished and turned off.
There's so many conflicting studies with regard to health. How do we know who to trust? For instance, the Codex things, the risk assessment tests. They're telling us that these nutrients are toxins. Other people are telling us that they're nutritional. But they're both scientists. People get confused often. Who do you believe? A lot of it comes down to funding and backing. Can you just give us your insight on that?
Yes, the whole thing with studies, and we've just seen this coming out recently in America, which was reported on the Natural News website, that a lot of studies are just completely biased in how they're looking at the information. Science either is or it isn't. That's the beauty of biochemistry. And the whole purpose of studies is to see whether you can set up a consistent return in an effort that you're making, for instance, vitamin C in lung cancer. All the studies show that nutrients in their proper forms are absolutely vital to the body. That's why we call them vitamins, vital minerals. And the whole idea that these are in any way damaging to our health is nonsense. Now, I'm not against having some sort of control and some sort of regulation on alternative medicines, because the whole area is a bit of a mishmash right now. That's very different from bringing in legislation, very Gestapo legislation that is simply stopping people's right to choose. But when we look at the studies, for instance, one of the major studies on vitamin C says vitamin C intake lowers cardiovascular risk by 50%, full stop. There's another study that says vitamin A intake lowers cardiovascular risk by 33%, documented in 87,000 study participants over 6 years. Now, are these findings wrong? Because they're echoed in a number of other studies. If you log on to the World Cancer Research Fund website, they have a 650-page Bible. You get a hernia lifting it up, stuffed full of nutritional annotations for cancer, and they're just being ignored. So what we have here is a deliberate effort to confuse the public.
Okay, yeah. And that deliberate is the operative word, really. I mean, so what is the agenda for these people, apart from money, obviously?
The agenda is the maintenance of the sickness system. The whole idea is to continue the war on cancer, because nobody wins when the war is won. The money is made in the fighting of the war. So when you hear about, oh, we're winning the war on cancer, just give us another 170 million, what they're really saying is, we're canoeing down that long river in Egypt called denial, give us another 170 million. So they can continue to follow the wrong course with the maximum of precision. So it's protectionism in its worst form, and the media is colluding in it and has done for ages.
Just talk a little bit about suppressed cancer cures. I mean, in one of your books, you talk a lot about B17, or vitamin B17, layer trail. Could you just remind people where they can find the natural sources for that, and talk about any other suppressed cures?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at, we've known for 80 to 90 years that cancer is a healing process. It hasn't switched off. It is implicated with fungi when we start to see cancer going from its primary to its metastatic stages. There's a doctor in Rome called Dr. Tullio Simoncini who can destroy tumors in a week and a half by injecting them with baking soda. But the problem with baking soda is that it won't pay a $10 billion a year chemotherapy industry. So again, we see that this whole press, many families, and indeed many of your viewers watching this film, will have had family members who have got very sick with cancer. They've had the best cancer medicine that money can buy, and they died. And in fact, if you look at the cancer recovery rates in Britain, we have some of the worst cancer survival rates of any Western industrialized nation. You're actually better off going to Latvia, and the reason you'll live longer there is because they cannot afford the chemo. So this has caused many people to look around for alternatives, and again, fraught with problems. Everyone's got a cancer cure in their bottom drawer. My job over the last 25 years has been to try to figure out what's working and what isn't on a scientific, consistent basis. B17 did crop up. B17 is not the cure for cancer, but it's a very important part of the support strategy, the nutritional support structure for recovering from cancer. In addition to that, we have to look at hydration. See, you never hear about hydration. We have 60 million people in Britain chronically dehydrated. You can tell that because we have a pub on every corner, but it's not water they're drinking. Salt is pretty important as well. What have we been told about salt? It's evil and wicked, you know. But the mistake here is in believing there's only one salt, sodium chloride, which is an industrial poison. There are many hundreds of salts in nature. Many of them are absolutely vital. You and I were born out of a water and salt sac inside our mum, and we live on a planet which is 73% water and salt. Our bodies are 73% water and salt. When they cremate you, God forbid, I'll pass on that one, what's left is salt. But we're told, don't have salt, even though we don't seem to question why it is that seriously ill people get put on saline drips. So again, there's a whole realm of this that is simply not being given to doctors, and this has prompted many people to want to look to try to find alternative ways of fighting what is an absolutely devastating disease.
Why is it these alternative cures aren't promoted in the mainstream media?
Simply because of the amount of advertising that the drug industry does in the mainstream media. If you run a newspaper and the vast majority of your income is advertising income is coming in from the chemical sector, you're not about to upset them by simply writing lots of articles about the alternatives. That's been admitted to me by a number of newspaper editors over the years. I think also that the whole system is, rather than seeing conspiracy behind everything, I think there's just a lot of ignorance. I mean, you'd be amazed at how many doctors actually ring me up with their own cancer. And I say to them, what about your chemotherapy and radiation? Why phone me up? I'm not even a doctor. And they go, well, we don't see it working. Plus, we're not told about anything that's going on in the alternative realm at all. Otherwise, we get burnt at the stake. So they kind of sneak into the back row of my meetings. But it's not promoted in the media because the media has decided to take the orthodox line. And again, I remember 5 years ago touring Australia, speaking out against mammograms, how mammograms can cause breast cancer, and being taken by the director of that that TV station and given a right dressing off backstage. A year and a half later, of course, it's only true when the Daily Mail prints it. What do we see? The scans that might cause cancer in high-risk women, and this whole idea of irradiating breast and then wondering why we get cancer from it. Everyone, of course, knows radiation causes cancer, but people tend to forget that when they go in for their routine mammograms.
In your opinion, what's next? How can we change this corporate machine that is doling out all these drugs that are essentially killing people?
Yeah, very simple way of regaining control. If you take a pound coin out of your pocket and hold it up, that pound coin and where you decide to spend it is the single greatest market force on earth. All other forces have to follow that. And the whole reason Codex Alimentarius has come into being is because millions of people around the world have stopped using drugs and started looking after themselves better. And it's been the deciding factor has been how much money has come out of the drug sector and gone into organic produce. It's gone into vitamins and minerals and herbs and so on and so forth, into different alternative modalities. And that has hurt the drug industry. Many of these companies are struggling to make their targets. And so because we have an entire corporate structure that is dedicated to the pursuance of profit at any price, we start to see that government and media is colluding in having this new medical statism brought in. So the public can respond very simply by doing en masse what any market force should do, and that is to go in the direction that you feel your money is best spent in. And all other market forces have to follow that.